Okay, hi everyone. I want to thank you for attending this BizChat today featuring James Sarmiento, the Hotel Operations Manager with Tachi Palace Casino Resort. Thank you for joining us today, James. We're happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So our first question for you today is, please share with us your current position along with a general synopsis of your career journey.
I am the Hotel Operations Manager here at the Tachi Casino Resort. I've been in hospitality for over 15 years now. Started out as a front desk agent, so I was one that moved my way up. I was actually working hotels at a hotel when I was going to school at West Hills College, and transferred over to another hotel in Fresno when I went to Fresno State up there. So I've been working in hotels for quite some time. I started as a front desk associate. I went to become a supervisor at a limited service hotel, and then when I moved up there to the hotel in Fresno, I had to take a step back. You don't always get to look for opportunity and remain where you are. So I went from a supervisor back down to an associate, but then I became a rooms housing coordinator, which works with our sales department. And after that, I got my first management gig. I was a front desk manager for quite some time. Front desk manager at 3 different hotels, including the one that I started out in Fresno at the Holiday Inn Fresno Airport. I was also a front desk manager over at the 4 Points by Sheraton over in Fresno as well. So I was front desk manager over there before I became a front desk manager here at the Tachi Palace. I've been here ever since. As a front desk manager, I was here for 10 years before I moved up to hotel operations manager. Now, I want to say I stayed in that position for those 10 years, but it wasn't always the same position. It's kind of migrated. When I first came here, it was only in charge of the front desk itself. But I got more and more responsibility. And that's one thing that I always say is, like, don't shirk away responsibility, because that responsibility, if you accept it, is going to be what gets you ready for that next step. So we went from front desk to front desk and front services, which includes bell and valet, and then I took on concierge. Eventually, taking on the whole front area over there for guest service. So after that, I'm now the hotel operations manager, and been doing that for two and a half years now.
Oh, very nice. Thank you for sharing all of that information with us. So my next question for you are, what are some of your typical responsibilities as a hotel operations manager?
Well, problem solving is probably the biggest thing, but I've written a few things down, so I just make sure I cover the bases. As the hotel operations manager, I am responsible for over 180 employees here at the hotel itself. You know, the palace themselves, we employ hundreds and hundreds of people, and we have 180 of them here at the hotel. Within those 180 employees, I have 7 department heads who directly report to me. So each of them respectively manages their own department. I have my front office manager, which is what I used to do. I have my call center manager, hotel sales manager. I have retail manager. So all of those different areas, they all report to me, and I'm here to help support each and every one of them, make sure they're successful. I kind of take a look at the big picture, and I do the division budget for the whole hotel and retail, and I do that by talking to all the different parties. So I kind of liaison between my managers and their needs, and different departments' needs, and my accounting team's needs, and whatnot. I try to put everything together to make it all fit. And so after doing that, I mean, you have your financial goals that you have to meet. So I meet with all my department managers and make sure that they understand what goals they have to meet. I set the benchmarks for them for each quarter, for each part of the year, so that we know that they're on track. This year excluded, of course, because this is not your typical year. So benchmarks are all out the window, and we're not following those at all. But that's what we do. I meet with them towards the end of every year to set goals for the following year, and then we meet on a monthly basis, making sure that we're meeting our benchmarks and whatnot that are coming up for each quarter. I also, I also plan and develop with product development. So I like any capital project that's out there. If we need new cabanas, or if we need a new software upgrade, or if we need a new software completely, I'm there to help research. I'm probably the primary researcher for my department heads, and then once I get like a few of the different options, we meet with my department heads, meet with my accounting team and all of them, and we start to plan it out. So from research all the way to implementation, installation, and even after installation, I kind of help each department get through that. And this is for capital projects. Anything above $5,000 for us is considered a capital project. So if it costs more than that, then we're putting it in. I just completed a door lock project that cost us close to $200,000 to complete. We did that during COVID. And one of the funny things is that we got the training while we were closed, and no one remembered the training, so I have to set up new training so that we can do it on a daily basis and not forget it. So, so you run into things like that, and that's kind of what I do. I take all those things and then I manage all the fires that come with it. Every day there's new fires that come with this or that, and I have to kind of just work through it and make sure that I'm planning to resolve those fires on either a daily or long-term basis. Usually my managers are doing the day-to-day. They're managing the day-to-day fires. They'll come to me if it gets too big or if they need advice. But if it's something, because not all fires can be put out, and sometimes it's just a Band-Aid. I'm there to make sure that it's not just a Band-Aid, that we have a long-term solution that will resolve their issues into the future and whatnot. So that's me. I'm the long-term guy. That's what I do as a hotel operations manager. The biggest thing is really supporting my team, because if they're successful, then that makes me successful. And that really means that I need to serve them. That means that I'm being a servant leader to them, and I'm understanding what their needs are and providing those needs for them. So that's kind of what the hotel operations manager does. Make sure that my leaders shine, and that they're able to be successful.
Sounds good. Thank you. That was great. So then my next question for you is, what led you to pursue a career in hospitality?
Twofold. When I was young, I thought there was two careers I always wanted to work when I was younger. When I was like you guys' age in college and whatnot. And one was banking, and then one was hotel. Just so happened I got a hotel job first and whatnot. And I gotta say, I didn't know if I was gonna stay in hotels as a career. I just thought that would be a very interesting job and to get into and to start off in. But opportunity knocks, and when you do your job and you take on responsibility, like I said, then people are willing to trust you with more responsibility. And so it just so happened that I started out in this career while I was in college, not knowing that it was going to be my career, but yeah, I loved it. I really liked it. I think there's a certain personality that you have to have for hospitality, and either you're gonna really love it or you're gonna really hate it. I'm gonna be honest. There's people that get into it and it's not for them. You do have to have like a certain personality of wanting to help people, but also have that thick skin of knowing that when someone's yelling in your face that they're probably having a bad day, and not to hold it against them. And yeah, so you have to have kind of that kind of mentality when you enter a field like hospitality, especially when you deal with hotels. And you'll get that. You'll get those highs where you made someone's day just by doing something simple, and you see it in their face, you see it in their comments. They'll email you back, and you didn't know you made that impact. You'll meet them on the street. This is a real story. You'll meet them on the street like years later, not even remember who they were, because you go through so many situations, but they remember you, and they tell you about that time that you helped them out, and that's what you live for when you're in this career. If you are that type of person that gets your energy from those types of experiences, then hospitality might be for you. You also have to have that thick skin though, because you'll have the opposite. You'll have those times where people are just so irate and yelling, but you can't do exactly what they're asking for, because you just don't have it. You're limited to the number of rooms you have. You're limited to the types of rooms you have. You're limited to to what you are available at that one time. So you can't make it exactly right. So your job is to make it as right as possible and to empathize with the guest as much as possible, to understand that where they're coming from might be where you're coming from, because I'm sure we've all been there where we've had that customer service experience where we want to yell at that person because, hey, they didn't meet the expectation, and it was just a simple expectation. But yeah, sometimes we don't meet those, and sometimes we can't as hospitality professionals. So you have to have both. You have to be able to weather that storm, but celebrate in those experiences that really give you that energy. That's kind of what I discovered, and why I made this a career, is because I really love those experiences and whatnot.
Yeah. So we had a few questions come up in the chat while you were sharing about this third question. So I'm going to ask them in order. So the first one is from a lady named Catherine. She said that, would you say then that in order to have a career in hospitality, you need to have a servant's heart?
Yes, most definitely. I think that's the biggest thing, is that service is key. Service heart is definitely key. We teach servant leadership here at the Tachi Palace. That's one of the things that we do. When anyone becomes a leader, if they're a line staff and they're preparing to become a leader, I have a succession program where I teach line staff. We call it RISE. It's Readiness and Supervisory Excellence. And that RISE program, we allow our line staff to enter into and start to learn what it means to be a servant leader. So anybody who becomes a new leader, like even if you're a new manager, you then go through our supervisory program. We hire you off the street because, our spa needed some specialty. You can't just become a spa manager. But if you become a manager in that area, we make you go through a book club about servant leadership. It's a book by James Harrison called The Servant, that we go through, and we have a book club, and we put all of our new leaders, all of our RISE students through it to teach them about servant leadership. You have to have a servant heart in this industry, because it's very important that you're supporting and that you understand that you are serving others and giving them what they need in order for you to be successful, for the business to be successful. And so yeah, service is actually a very key word, Catherine, and I'm glad you mentioned that.
So another question that came through the chat was, aside from thick skin, what other qualities make someone successful in the field of hospitality?
Well, service heart is one of those big things. Yeah, I think thick skin is definitely up there, but service heart is the biggest thing. It's being able to be a servant. But just compassion and empathy; those skills are big. You have to be able to empathize with your guests. It's not just enough to say I'm sorry, because that's not empathizing. When you say sorry to somebody, that's giving them sympathy. But and that's important too. Don't get me wrong. You have to say sorry to your guests when you make a mistake, but you have to empathize with them in their experience. Empathy is putting yourself in their place and understanding where they're coming from, as if you yourself was experiencing that, so that you understand where they're coming from and how they're feeling. Taking an experience that you actually had yourself and relating it to the experience that the guest is having, so that you understand it better. So empathy is definitely a big skill that you should have. I have this written down. This was one of the questions here. Let me look for it real quick. But yeah, those are very, very important. I think patience is important, because with this industry, I think that you have to play the long game in certain relationships and whatnot, especially with your guests. And sometimes you get that guest where you have them repeatedly come in, and they always have that same issue. But if you develop a relationship with them, that issue becomes almost secondary or non-existent to that guest, because what becomes more important to them is that relationship that you have with them. So you have to have really good communication skills as well. And I think that's understated, because communications is being able to communicate interpersonally with somebody is very, very key to developing the relationships that you need to be successful in hospitality, because it really is about the relationship with the guest and your associates, right? Those are the ones that you really have to develop if you want to be in leadership. You have to develop the relationship with the people that you're responsible for, and also develop the relationships with guests, because You want them coming back, and the most important way to get people to come back and have repeat guests is if they know you. They're willing to forgive so much more of what happened and put aside anything that might be bad that happened. Oh, because James will fix it, or this is not typical. That's not usually what happens. I'm just going to tell James about it. And you don't know how many phone calls I get about those things, but just little issues that could be big issues if we reacted the wrong way, because I've had that happen too, where I don't have a relationship with somebody and we may have reacted a certain way, and it's not even a bad way. It was just an indifferent way. Being indifferent in hospitality is almost the same as acting badly sometimes, because people want to feel that empathy and they're not getting it from that person. So if I have to take over, then in that place, it's now me developing that relationship with that guest. And not all of those opportunities are bad, because it does give me the opportunity to develop that relationship. And then if I do develop that relationship, that person will be more forgiving towards the whole property, not just me, but my staff as well. So that's always the goal. I think communication is definitely up there as a big important skill. So if you're asking me, service hearts up is probably number one. Communication would be probably number two. Patience, and then that thick skin, of course, is all over-encompassing, kind of like an umbrella over all of that.
Sounds good. Thank you. So we did have another question that came in the chat field, and you and I talked a little bit about this topic when we talked over the phone, but this student is asking about internship opportunities with Tachi, and if there's any option or availability of that happening in the future. So I just think that you could speak to that a little bit about why that isn't the case right now.
Yeah, it's a little tough for our establishment to do the internships and whatnot. Every employee that comes through here goes through a rigorous background check, especially on the casino side. So they have to check credit scores and background checks and all of that. They have a lot of things that are requirements in order to actually work on the casino floor, or even here at the hotel. Hotel's a little less. We don't do a complete background check or whatnot. But I think they've shifted away from entertaining that idea just because of that, because they want to make sure everyone that goes through the process goes through it correctly and whatnot. And there might be opportunity in the future, but I'm going to be honest with you, in the near capacity, the best way to get experience with us is to apply for like a job, a part-time job or something like that, and just get that experience with us and whatnot. Right now, there's a hiring freeze right now, because with COVID and everything that's happening. I have 180 employees, but I still have a good number of those, about 70 employees that are still on furlough. So we're trying to get everyone back. Certain departments that we have people on furlough with that haven't come back, we're calling them to other departments and whatnot. So they get priority over any open positions, like if people leave, or if we created a whole new COVID task force and all of that stuff. Before we hire anybody, we want to give those people who are on furlough the opportunity of coming back. So I don't anticipate us opening hiring until next year, just because I'm not the only division with furloughed employees. There's other divisions with still furloughed employees, and we have to work through those people first before we can open it back up for everyone to hire. But unfortunately, no internships or whatnot. I am available if anybody ever needs to contact me, and Tamara has my contact information. She's going to share it with you guys. Ask questions or need anything. I'm open. I'm an open book, and I'm always willing to talk. So I talk a lot, as you can tell. So be prepared to listen if you call me. But yeah, so I'm open, and if you want to learn more about the business, or if you have something specific. But the best way to get experience with our company, if you're looking at Tachi specifically, is to get at least a part-time job while you're in college or something, or even just for the summer and whatnot. Yeah, we had people who actually came and was like a pool attendant, and we always need more pool attendants during the summer, so we're hiring extra people. But we had people who would go to college and come back for the summer and just work the pool, and we would hire them right away because we knew we had them every year for like 3 years. So that's always a possibility as well. So once everything turns back to normal.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. So my next question for you is, what does a typical day look like for you as a hotel operations manager?
All right. It's always different. I got all kinds of fires. I wrote this one down too because this is really it's a little crazy. There's no day that's the same. I do create routines though. There are routines that I create because I am a creature of habit. So I don't like for there not to be some sort of routine. So I have a weekly routine. When I was a front office manager, it was more like a daily routine. But I think once you start moving up and you have more administrative tasks and more project-based stuff, then you really have to like expand that to look more longer term. So for me, like Mondays are payroll. Like the first part of my day on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays are always to repetitive tasks or meetings, right? That's what I said. I know on every Tuesday I'm going to have my revenue meeting that's set for the general manager of the property, me, my director, and the directors of other revenue producing departments. We meet in the morning. I also know that on Tuesdays I have my Rotary meeting that I go attend in town. So I go into town in Lemoore and I attend a Rotary meeting, which is a civic organization my company sponsors me to be a part of because they want me to represent Tachi as part of in a capacity with community involvement. So I have that membership that I go to, and then I come back and do a RevMax meeting with my team here at the hotel to talk about what I talked about with the upper ups and also with the other departments that are involved with revenue like marketing and all of that because, like 60% of our guests come from marketing. So I do that. So, and then on Wednesdays, I know I have a hotel ops meeting. On Mondays, I have tasks for payroll right in the morning that I need to get done before noon. And so my first part of my day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, are always repetitive. I always know starting my week, that's it right there. Afternoons for every single day, I always try to keep free for like just pop-up stuff. Anything that might come up, anything that I might need to catch up on, anything that gets thrown my way by anyone else, by accounting, by other divisions that might need me. So like in the afternoon, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'll throw all my tasks that get thrown to me by my other departments in the property, and I kind of tackle those. If I don't have anything, which is rare, then I work on my projects and whatnot. Thursdays and Fridays are usually my project days. I get to catch up on those. Anything long term, I need to contact my vendor, get an update on certain thing that I'm waiting on. Hey, I'm waiting on you scheduling me for this training for like the Darlocks and whatnot. So I'll contact them, or I'll throw meetings like this into Thursday or Friday. I know that these are my free days. I don't have these are for me to catch up on, but also for me to schedule any vendors that might be needing to speak with me, any community stuff like with Rotary that I might need to catch up on, this BizChat. So this is just my free days, Thursday and Friday, but also my catch-up days. So that's my typical week. It's a go. Today was really, and yesterday was really go. It was there was a lot of things that were on my calendar, and I really, I don't get to eat lunch when things like that happen. I did get something today. I got a Starbucks. So we have Starbucks right here next to in my hotel. So I got a mocha, and I was able to have that and a little lemon bread bar or whatever it is. So I got that to tie me over until dinner. So that's what happens. I didn't get lunch yesterday, but sometimes that's what happens. Typically you work, my boss says he wants us to have a work-life balance. So he doesn't really like us working more than 8 hours a day, but I usually spend about 10 hours here a day at work, and that's typical for a management job. I mean, when I worked at my first management job, and this is something you gotta know too. Okay, so when you work in hotels, the days can be very, very long depending on the company that you're working for. I'm fortunate here that I have a boss now that wants work-life balance, and that we have support because, my main moneymaker is the casino, and so we're able to kind of spread our wings as long as we're making a little money, we're okay. As opposed to a corporate hotel where the main moneymaker is the hotel, and it's a corporately ran hotel, and my days were a lot longer there. My first management job, I worked 16 hours a day, and that's something that I did for over a year. I mean, That's something that was expected of me, just because that's how long it took to get the job done. I don't want to say I worked every day 16 hours. There were some days I worked 12 or whatnot. 12 would probably be the least amount in that job. But that was a corporately ran holiday inn, and that's what was expected. Which brings me to my next point. Just because that's how you're working first, or that's where how you're working at the place you're going, and this goes to not only hospitality but everywhere. Understand that it's not about what you're doing; it's probably the company that you're in, right? And what's the expectations. You can take the experience that you get and move on, and move on, and go someplace. I had 3 front desk manager positions at 3 different hotels before I settled here, and I got stability, and I got the work-life balance I was craving. And I got a place where I could stay and watch my daughter grow from when she was young all the way up to when she's graduating this year from high school, and West Hills, by the way. Yeah, so she's gonna be graduating from both, and this place allowed me to do that. It allowed me to get the stable income and enough to be able to grow and be able to just provide for her. But I stayed at my first management job probably close to 2 years. I stayed at my next management job for a year and a half. Just know that, and that was a great job, by the way, my second one. I got some work-life balance there, but it wasn't challenging enough. That was the only issue with me. So if you're missing something where you are, just take that experience and look for another opportunity. I went from front desk manager to front desk manager to front desk manager in 3 different properties, but they were all different experiences. They were all different, and they all provided me with a different experience. And the company that I'm with now, it provided me with increased responsibility that it kept me challenged for 10 years in that same position. So what I got to say is just keep moving. Yeah, I think that's important. I don't remember what the original question was.
Yeah, that's okay.
I was
that's okay.
remember,
You're sharing.
I did it this time. So.
Yeah, you're sharing good information, so you're good. Thank you for that. My next question for you is, what are some of your biggest day-to-day challenges that you face?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the day-to-day challenges, a lot of the day-to-day is done by, taken care of by my department managers. But I think the biggest challenges for me right now are those sudden emergencies, things that need immediate response and whatnot. Those things, when my managers are all great, and I've helped develop them. I mean, if you take a look at my front office manager, she was here. She's been here since she was a call center supervisor, actually call center agent first. That was before I knew her. So call center supervisor. Then she moved over to become our Sequoia Inn manager, which is over there in Hanford, and then she came to become our front office manager. But when she was a call center supervisor, she'd work for me at the front desk and fill in for my supervisors and whatnot. My housekeeping executive, my housekeeping manager, she started out at the pool as a pool attendant. I brought her on as a bell person under me, made her my concierge. She became a front desk supervisor, and then finally my housekeeping manager. These are people that have worked with me for a considerable amount of time, 6, 7, 8 years. They're not all of them. I've had some new ones, but a lot of them have worked with me, and I've been able to help them develop. And they've kind of taken that responsibility and just ran with it. I mean, they are very self-sufficient. I'm very fortunate, but I think it's testament. If you help them become successful and stronger, then it makes your job a lot easier. It makes you be able to pursue more yourself, right? A lot of people like to manage in the sense that they kind of hoard the responsibility because they don't want anyone taking their job. Well, that's not what you want to do. You want them to be able to take your job. For me, when I leave here, I want somebody to be able to just step right in and be able to do what I'm doing, and that's what I'm preparing all the people that I'm responsible for to be able to do, just to step right in and take this responsibility. I was able to do that with my last previous position. When I left, Danica just came right in and whatnot. And then when my executive housekeeper left, one of the people that have been working with me, she just came right in. and was ready for that. And the most important thing was that leadership component, that servant leadership component. But yeah, that's what you want to do is to be able to prepare them. So I think the biggest challenge, going back to the question, I'll go back, right now is my COVID situation with all of my furloughed employees and whatnot. That's probably my biggest day-to-day thing, is managing all of that, getting phone calls from my people that are still out asking questions, because you don't always have answers. And just being able to encourage them still through this whole process, that's tough, and that's sometimes draining sometimes. And so I think if you're really asking me what my biggest day-to-day challenges right now, is going to be that, and also communicating safety procedures and all of that, and trying to take the fear level down for all the employees that are here, trying to create safety measures for them, and trying to communicate how they can be more safe and their contribution to providing a safe environment here for themselves, each other, and for our guests. So day to day, I think that would be the biggest day to day right now, if you were to ask me.
Sounds good. Thank you. We did have a question come in the chat while you were sharing. Do the opportunities differ from Sequoia Inn and the Palace?
Well, there was a time when Sequoia Inn reported straight to the tribe, so I would say that the opportunity did differ there. But at this moment in time, they're reporting right back over to the hotel, and I think that's going to be a permanent. That's going to be a permanent thing. We have used our Sequoia Inn property as a place to train our managers, our leaders, and whatnot early on. I could tell you that I've had 1, 2, and now 3 managers head over there that came from Palace and moved over there to get experience. All been supervisors over here and took on that manager role over there. It's a unique experience, because it really is a great experience, because you get to learn how a limited service property works. It's a lot slower paced, so you can really get to know the depths of it. And I started out in this industry in a limited service hotel, much like the Sequoia Inn, actually a little more backdated, because they didn't even have computers. Not that they couldn't have computers, the technology was there, they just chose not to have computers, so we did everything by hand. But yeah, the property there does offer the same amounts of opportunities. I know there's a few people there that have taken my ride class, and I'm looking, when we do have a supervisor position open here, to get over here, because I think they're great. And so they still have the same opportunities that we have here. They get Associate of the Month, just like everyone here. They get recognized. They get the same management model. Their leaders are trained on servant leadership, and so I would say right now they're just an extension of our hotel here. You might not get as much exposure because we don't see you every day. So when I do my rounds and I get to meet people and talk to them, because my typical day also, at the beginning of the day, I go through each and every area and I talk to everyone about their personal lives and whatnot and whatnot. That's actually what I do first. Is I go to wardrobe, I go to bell, I go to front desk, and I talk to them about not only their work day or what's been happening in their areas, but also about their personal life and how their daughter's been and how the husband, if they've been sick, how they're feeling now. So that's kind of the thing that you're going to miss if you're at Sequoia Inn, I think, is exposure to all the other managers. You do get your manager and your leadership team, but everyone else kind of doesn't get to see you. But we get exposure through them, and I do visit the Sequoia Inn sometimes. I still get to see everyone all the time. So I think that's the only thing that you'll probably miss over there.
Is the hiring process, even for the Sequoia Inn, is it the same as it would be with Tachi Palace Casino Resort, or is it 2 different processes?
Yeah, it's the same. We have people interview actually over here for Sequoia Inn. So they turn in their applications over here to the Palace. When hiring opens back up, they'll turn in their applications here. They tried it a little different. Like I said, they had that moment where it was reporting straight to the tribe, and then they turned applications in over there. Then they turned it into the tribe. Then we got it back. So when it reopens again, you'll be putting your applications here. You'll be interviewing over here. We typically interview all together, especially if we're looking for both Sequoia and Tachi. And then we ask people, hey, are you open to whatever opportunity? If they're open to it, then we try to pick the best people. Like sometimes we get people applying for Tachi and we have too many that we can't hire everyone, but we think that they're all great and we'd love to. We take that one person and say, hey, are you looking for somebody? So we stopped doing that. We just started interviewing together. So, and that way we could just move them where they might be needed. So yeah, it's the same process for hiring.
Sounds good. Thank you. So then my next question is, how has your education played a part in your career?
So I am a Lamora High School grad, class of '96, and I am also a West Hills grad. So I am an alumni over at West Hills. I met my wife there. Yeah, so I met my wife there. My daughter goes there now. I'm West Hills through and through. So that has helped me a lot as far as moving forward and going and pursuing my bachelor's. I'm going to be honest with you. When I went to Fresno State, I didn't finish my bachelor's. I didn't get it done right away, and I focused on my career. I'll be honest with you too. I had a daughter early on, so while I was in college, and I decided to focus on my career and move up. But education was always a big part of it, even on the job education. So I've gotten, while on the job, getting professional education and moving that up and learning all about the different philosophies and theories that are out there. Daniel Pink's motivation theory and Maslow's hierarchy of needs and all of that good stuff. You learn that in professional series, and so you take that with you and all of that. But I know that I've been very fortunate to be able to get to the level I am without the education of at least a bachelor's degree. I know that because looking at my next steps, I need to be able to get a bachelor's degree. That's what's required for my next step, to become a director of some place. So I did go back, and I'm currently enrolled at Fresno Pacific University, and we've got 2 classes left. COVID kind of shut me down for a little bit, but I got 2 classes left, and I'll be finishing up next semester, and so I'll be happy to graduate with my bachelor's the same year my daughter gets her AA and high school diploma. So class of 2021, baby.
Nice, very nice. That's exciting.
Very exciting, yes.
Yeah, it is. So my next question then for you is, how had your education played a part in your career?
Was that the last question that we had? I think.
Sort of. You didn't really speak to it that much, but I just was curious how your education actually is applied in a career in hospitality.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So, taking business administration over at Fresno Pacific, and actually, whenever you take it, there's things that you can draw from it. Like I told you about the succession planning that I did. We have had that every single year since I was a front office manager. So I took that over late into that program, then I developed it more. But as I was doing that, this last couple of years, I've been at Fresno Pacific, and I've been able to take some of the things that I was learning over there and apply it actually into the class. I mentioned Daniel Pink's motivation theory earlier, but that came from a Fresno Pacific class that I took. So I took that and I applied it to my students to teach them about that motivation 3.0 series, and learning that motivation is more than just rewards and punishments and whatnot. So that you need to have something more to motivate people if you're looking to motivate them past that certain level when they're thinking, when you want them to think creatively and whatnot. So so I've taken different aspects of my education, and I think what education does is it gives you a lot of tools in the toolbox to be able to pull from and to use at different times and whatnot. I started my college career at Fresno State, and even though I didn't finish over there, I started as a communications major. So there's a lot, like I said, interpersonal communication. There's a lot of the same skill set that I was able to pull from my education there and use and understand the importance of when I'm communicating with with my with other people within the business world and whatnot. Writing, I think school gets you ready for with writing. You guys know how much you guys write and whatnot, but understand that when you get into a professional setting, they want you to write concise. They want you to write with directness. They want you to write with clarity and what you're actually getting to the point with. And that's something that I think some of my early leaders struggle with. Some of my supervisors and whatnot that are still going to school and whatnot that I emphasize with them and whatnot. But I think writing really helps as well. Being able to be coherent in that and just getting a lot of practice in school will help you in the professional world. So if we have something about direct correlations, those would be the most direct, I think, that I can think of.
That's good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So we did have a question come into chat that I can answer actually. So the question is, which classes would benefit this career choice at West Hills College Lemoore? And we have a hotel, restaurant, casino management program that's available for students who are interested in hospitality. If you're interested in that, I'll put in chat my contact information at the end of the BizChat, and then we can touch base and I'll get you connected with people who can share more information with you about that program. Okay, so James, my next question for you is, what do you love most about your job?
I love being able to see people grow. You know, I thought it was about hospitality. I used to love those moments, like I mentioned to you, when somebody comes up to you, tells you how much you impacted them, and I still love those. But if you're asking me the most, I think it really ties to the leadership aspect of my job and being responsible to mentor other leaders. That has been my biggest joy, is seeing someone go from pool attendant to my executive housekeeper, someone going from my front desk agent. This is another story, and he's a really good friend of mine. He's over in Santa Barbara now. So it's not only staying here, that's like moving on in a career in whatever they choose. He's now in accounting. So, but he started as a front desk agent, became a supervisor at the gift shop, became a supervisor with me, went over to Sequoia and again to be a manager over there, and then came back to Tachi in the accounting department before he went back to Santa Barbara, where he was originally from, and got careers in accounting there. So he's doing really well. I talk to him every now and then. Went to his wedding. I think those are my biggest joys, being able to create that long-lasting relationship with people that you've seen grow, and knowing that you have had just a slight impact on their lives. I think that's the biggest joy that I've had.
Sounds good. Thank you. So I'm going to ask James a few other questions, but keep in mind we have about 15 more minutes for the BizChat. So we'll knock 5 minutes off of that for last minute items to close the event. So I have 10 minutes for more questions. If you have any more for James, put them in the chat, okay? So as those questions come into the chat, James, my next question for you is, what do you dislike about your job?
I wrote this down too. The fact that you can't help everyone. There's going to be those moments. I mean, I told you have to have thick skin, but those are the most trying times, and that's when you have to display that thick skin, when you have to practice it. And I think that's the time where you dislike it the most. You know, I think that's the part that can be the most challenging, is when you can't meet the expectations of the people that are around you, whether that be a guest or those people that you're responsible for, with an associate, you're one of your supervisors, one of your leaders. I've had to let go of some certain people who you give an opportunity to. I always try to tell my leaders, you don't fire anyone; they fire themselves, because you give them opportunity after opportunity. You try to coach them; it just might not be a good fit, and sometimes it isn't. But it still hurts, because you want it to be a fit. You want them to be able to be successful. And anything that is even perceived as a failure for somebody is also your failure. It's you as a leader have failed that person. So I think that's what hurts the most, when you can't help everybody and you want to.
Sounds good. Thank you. So then I also, you mentioned thick skin and having patience and empathy, but are there any skills that they might, or experiences, I should say, that someone should be seeking out if they're interested in a career in hospitality?
Yeah, I think having experience in hospitality is very important. I think getting, I would always, I was always be an advocate of getting your feet wet and just going there and getting some part-time job. It's a very accessible job while you're in college. If you're even thinking about it, get in there and really see if you like it. Because if you don't like that first part of it, that front line portion of it, then you're probably not gonna like the leadership aspect of it, because it's like that portion, maybe not as much, but very much so higher degree. You don't take care of all the small things anymore. You'll take care of the big issues that they can't handle normally at the front line, and you'll be expected to be able to take care of those. So, so get your feet wet. See if you do have that thick skin or that patience, and but you might say it's still not for me. So I know some people that I've put on a great game face, but they end up saying, yeah, but I don't like doing that, and it just might not be for you. So I would say get your feet wet, and get out there in front of people and do it in a hospitality setting, because the expectations in hospitality is very different, even than, like, I would say banking or anything else. I think sometimes you could get away with certain front-facing experiences being transactional, especially like at the DMV or somewhat. You could be very transactional. That's not the experience that you want to go if you want to see if hospitality is a career for you. You want to be in a hospitality setting. So.
Perfect, thank you. So then my last question for you, James, is what advice would you give students who are interested in this career? You mentioned getting your feet wet. Is there anything else that you think they should have and know before pursuing this career path?
Just getting your feet wet, working a part-time job. I also say to keep on moving, like I mentioned earlier. I think that being able to look for different opportunities is important. Know that not every hospitality experience is going to be equal or the same or representative of everything. I know that working at a limited service hotel is very different from them working at a full service hotel. Working at my property at Alliance Staff is very different than working at other properties at Alliance Staff, at a corporate hotel or other properties that I've managed. We here are very fortunate. We're able to stack upon stack on labor and make sure that we're really focused on service. Not every place is. Working at a 4-diamond hotel, you probably get that same thing where your focus is there, and they'll stack labor upon stack labor to make sure that someone's there if you drop something in the lobby or something like that. But not every hotel is like that. So if you don't take one experience and think it's representative of everything, keep moving. If you don't like it, keep moving and seeing if there's a different experience that you like and whatnot. But understand that the more experiences that you have within this industry, the more prepared you'll be. And as long as you have some experience in this industry, that opens a lot of doors. If you're like a night auditor, that means working graveyards. That's what I did while I was in college, was work graveyards at a hotel. If you're a night auditor, that means run the numbers at night, run the system at night. Sometimes it's just running the system and pushing a button. Sometimes it's working through the numbers and balancing the day. But if you're a night auditor, that probably means you could apply for any other night auditor job out there and get at least an interview, get your foot in the door. So that experience does bode well, especially at the beginning of your hospitality career. So get that experience and move with it, and then look for other people that have experiences in there. Not just managers like myself, not just people who've worked their way up, but people who are currently there working. The front desk person, the other night auditors, the bell person, whoever it might be. If you have friends that are working at a hotel, ask them about it. Or, hospitality is more than hotel. I mean, it's restaurants too and whatnot. And I've worked in restaurants and like I said, I'm now in charge of the retail department here. So it's everything. Hospitality kind of encompasses all of that. So ask questions, get experience, be open to understand that every opportunity is different, and not representative of the whole. There will be certain things that you can count on for everything, but every opportunity is, of course, unique in its own way.
That's good. So our last question that we probably have time for today came in the chat. This person said that they like what you had to say about empathy versus sympathy. How do you coach your employees to be empathetic versus apologetic, especially when an apology isn't necessary or fitting?
Yeah, empathetic is something that we struggle with a lot. Even after we train it, people are like, I said I'm sorry. Did you empathize? What was your empathy statement? And so, you know, it's hard because it's a feeling that you have to have, but sometimes you don't have that feeling. I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes there's going to be guests that have some claim or some thought or expectation that you might find that is just ridiculous, right? And it's not, it's something that's out of the ordinary or whatnot. You still have to empathize. We tell our associates you still have to empathize. And if you think hard enough and empathize hard enough, you can find a relative that you could probably point to that say, oh yeah, that's like my uncle boy, or my uncle, my auntie, or whatever, what is, you know, it's just my auntie baby or whoever it might be. You could find a relative that you can say, yeah, I can empathize because I know them and I still love them, and I still know where they're coming from, and you can still empathize. We try to make it kind of more less theoretical and more practical by adding, like, you have to have an empathy statement, making sure you're using that and remembering to empathize when you're actually making that empathy statement. And the empathy statement has to be not I'm sorry, but it has to be more like something to the effect where, you know, I understand where you're going through. If that happened to my sister or if that happened to me, then I would feel the same way. By saying that, you are actually verbalizing that you are feeling what they're feeling. You understand what they're feeling, and that you're empathizing. I would feel that way when you say that, or I would feel this way if that happened to my sister, or if that happened to me. Helps you to get into that mode of actually visualizing and empathizing with the guest. So that kind of helps out in a way, and then you know, have them watch Brene Brown videos. I mean, that's something I like. I mean, there's a great video from Brene Brown that I teach it. I show it in my class whenever I do it. So look it up, empathy, Brene Brown, and that's like the go-to video for me. If you don't understand what empathy is, watch that video. You will understand what empathy is when you watch that video. And I probably stole the concept from her when I was explaining it earlier. So, you know.
Sounds good. Thank you. That was great. That was great advice. I appreciate that. Well, that is all of our questions then for our biz chat. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to end the recording now, but everyone please stay on the call as there's a few housekeeping items before we all leave the biz chat today.